What is up, everybody? We got the apes, the outliers, the ape outliers. We got everybody ready to dive in. There's actually a follow-up session from what we kicked off last week, which was diving into Roaring Kitty's old trades. So the goal for today is to finish going through some of his old trades, and then I think we should talk a little bit about kind of what we see going on with GameStop today, because there's quite a few interesting things I think that it's worth going in depth on. And I've gotten a handful of people that have sent me some posts from like Super Stonk and stuff that we want to take a look at. So I am looking forward to digging in with you all. For those that don't know, on the last live stream, I decided to start dropping in where people in the live stream are from, and take a look at the last one we did. This is essentially what we had. So we had people from quite literally all over. I think we were missing Africa as a continent. And then I think we need a little bit of like Northeastern over here. But I mean, other than that, we have just about everything covered. The Aussies, you know, I'm friends with the Aussies. I spent some time in the military hanging around them. I still talk with them. So I feel like they're innately covered to a degree. But yeah, I just thought this was so cool. One of the things that I find so fascinating about the GameStop story is that it's this thing that really has taken people from all different kinds of backgrounds and brings them together. Like how fun is that? For me, it's an absolute blast because, as a lot of you know, I'm a professional trader. It's what I do. And the way that I look at the whole GameStop thing is probably a lot different than the way that a lot of other people look at it. But it's still the fact that the same circumstance brings people from literally all over the place into one spot. It kind of reminds me of the melting pot that is trading, or the melting pot that is the military. That's really what comes to mind. The military is really, really good at pulling people together. So yeah, I just get such a kick out of that. So let me grab the chat. I have to make sure that we say hello to everybody and we get this party started. So let me grab this. So we got Dr. Zayas, Cedric, Gravitarist, the Nye, Der Schlupp, lots of familiar names. Reese, Raptures, Pam, Cedric, which I think I said already, Carlos, Zachariah, the Fresh Maker from Germany. Do we have Germany in here? I think we have Germany. It would actually be really nice if you could sort these by name. That would be good. It doesn't look like I can easily. I feel like we have Germany, though. I feel like I literally just looked at that. We'll type it in. We'll type it in and we'll see. Add that baby in. So we got Germany. I think I was seeing Amsterdam. And then we got Belgium. We got to keep our little thing up to date here. I'm not even going to lie. As a very standard Westerner, I don't fully... Is there like a big cultural difference between Germany and Belgium? Just seems so close. I feel like they got to be so close to one another. Beer is a little different. One is beer, one is chocolate. I guess that's fair. Yeah, because there's I had a friend in high school whose dad was from Belgium, and he had opened a chocolate shop. So I guess that makes sense. Interesting. Well, cool. So we got people from all over the map. That's what we're seeing here. So as always, if there's anything that you think we should take a look at or you want to specifically look at, let me know, because it is an open agenda. We're definitely going to poke through some of these existing things like we've talked about, but I fully intend to pick up where we left off. And I've gotten a few questions in the meantime. So One of them is about the 5K share purchase history. We left off at the June 2020 YOLO update. So that's where we're going to go. We like essentially are through a good bit of his previous trades to see what they looked like and the delta between the positions and stuff. So I'm excited to keep moving this forward. Get back into June. Here we go. So this is where we left off. So, oh, geez. So a couple things really stuck out to me from what we did last time. And as I analyzed, I call it fingerprinting. And literally all it is I'm trying to identify the behaviors that are unique to a person as a trader. And again, I always feel the need to remind people that from my lens, I'm not trying to deconstruct what Roaring Kitty is doing so that I can try to copy him. That's literally not it at all, personally. The reason why I like looking at his stuff is because the movements he's made as an investor and trader are naturally fascinating to me. And it's because from a trading perspective, a lot of what he does would not follow a standard, fully logical pattern. And what I'm not saying is illogical, but when we're talking about trading, investing, the standard logic is make as much money as you can, decrease risk. Like that's really the point of this. But every once in a while, you'll come across anomalies that have different objectives. One of my friends, he's a YouTuber, and I talked to him a lot about his preferences as a trader. And he literally has said multiple times that like, he doesn't really care that much about making money. He just loves trading that much, which again, to me is fucking crazy. But I also can understand that perspective. So a lot of the things that I see the cat do are just so interesting to me because it highlights such an important difference in motivating factor. If we look at the standard motivating factor, make more money, reduce risk, ideally at the same time. If you can make a bunch of money with low risk, that is generally the pinnacle. But then you can come across somebody like the cat who literally flips all of that all over the fucking place. It's crazy. The fact that when this dude came back, and we'll look at it in a second, but the fact that he goes through this process and even the amount of money he came back with, I find really interesting. The way that he trades now, I can't help but find literally fascinating. If you followed my coverage or exploration, I should say, of GameStop and my learning of it so far, you're probably exhausted from hearing me saying the term fascinating. But it is the honest truth. I've been a lifelong practitioner of markets, and I have seen a lot since from my start in 2007. You get a sense of what markets do, how people behave, the different motivations and incentives for different participants. And then every once in a while, you come across a fucking anomaly. And that's part of the reason why this is just so unbelievably interesting to me. Also, shout out to all the apes because there's 69 of us in here right now. And I can't help but notice that whenever we do these live streams, we seem to hover around that magical number for just a hot minute. It takes 69. It takes a crowd to make it happen. So let's start with Dr. Zay says, if you ever do merch, it should be t-shirts that say fascinating and anomaly. That's hilarious. Yeah, that would be like probably the worst merch launch ever, but it would be epically funny. But yeah, I really do find just about everything pertaining to this just absolutely curious. So, all right, let's talk about where we left off. Here's what I noticed leading into this. When we were going through his previous trades, we can see that he went through a very interesting scaling process. And the other thing that I found so interesting about what he was doing is that he clearly was very risk tolerant right from the jump. Because we've seen even this 100,000 portfolio float, and it's been all over the map so far. So we've seen it over $200,000 not all that long ago. And not that long before that, we've seen it below $50,000, right? So February 2020, $44,400, something like that, Feb 2020. Fast forward, April 2020, $215,000, big difference. Then we go from April to May, back down, sub 150. Then we go from May to June, back down again, another 25K to 121. What I'm highlighting is from a normal trader's perspective, that is insane volatility. And the way that we would typically move around those kinds of positions is very different than this, which is why it's so damn interesting. So the other things that I want to highlight from the last session is that we absolutely found that he is completely confident averaging down. As something is declining, if he still believes in it, which clearly he did, he continued to cost dollar average into the position, which is interesting. Now, what I noticed with that, though, is that he would do it with longer term options plays, longer term. I've not seen him do that with some of these shorter term options plays, which I don't know if he does or doesn't. I literally haven't looked past this since we discussed it last Saturday. So now we go back in and pick up where we left off. The goal here was obviously to do a quick recap for anybody that might not have missed it or, just wants the TLDR. That's essentially it. We have some very clear behaviors and tendencies that we can identify for Roaring Kitty. So, Cedric says, if I would buy a huge amount of contract YOLO close to the money on heavily shorted stock, would the same thing not happen? You have to remind me what we're talking about for that. Yeah, I'm not sure. You have to, Cedric, let me know what that means. And then Cedric says, if you YOLO 50K on a heavily shorted stock with options, could anybody have launched it like that? No. Because it wasn't, just because it was shorted, 50K in options is nowhere near enough. And the other thing is he didn't launch, he doesn't have enough money at this point to cause anything. That's just the reality of things. That's one of the craziest things about this and this is one of the things I didn't know about him, is he's using leverage via options. The very first trades that we have of his, which is going to take me a second, but it's worth showing again. Just have to scroll all the way down here. Oh yeah, somebody gave me a cheat code on the last one. You guys have to tell me what the last, damn it. Somebody gave me the specific hotkey to get to the bottom instead of having to do this like a freaking caveman, but we're here. So if we go all the way back 5 years ago, you can see that literally his entire series of positions are options. That's literally how he started doing this, which again, I did not know that. Based on everything I heard, I had the impression that he was a stock trader that sometimes used options to amplify the position, but I didn't take it that he was an options trader, which is what I would classify this as. He's absolutely a stock value investor at this point 5 years ago, no doubt in my mind. But he's using options very, very strategically to create the leverage that he wants. His entire position is all options, which is really interesting to me. I'm going to keep that other tab open just so that if we want to go back down to the bottom, I don't have to play that scrolling game again. But this one will just take me a second to get to June. A key. Vladimir says, Eric, look at RK's actual moves during January 2021. His cost basis for the options that he held was just a few thousand, but he was making up to 10 million unrealized gains in a day in January 21. Well, yeah, let's see when we get there. So let's figure out where we are here in June. In June, right now, we just started building a very small stock position. We have 500 shares at a basis of 516, and the last price was 434. So let me grab, I think we were using Yahoo Finance, yeah? I think that's what let us go and look at the specific chart back in time, if I'm not mistaken. Because the on-demand feature in Thinkorswim was being super, super not reliable. Let's zoom this thing in, get rid of this. Here we go. So now we want to go to 2021. We can go to May, maybe. Remember last time this gave us some problems. And then let's take this to December, maybe, of 21. And let's just go to the end there. Let's hit apply. Let's see if this... Yeah, see, it did this exact thing last time. Why does it do this last time? Let's try doing like a 6-month daily and see if this fixes it. We had this same exact problem last time. I don't know why. And apparently we have an issue with it loading. What is wrong with you? Okay, good. So now we have a 6-month daily. Now let's go back again. Let's try this one more time. Let's just go to 2021. And I'm just going to essentially look at the whole year and see if this will let us apply that date range. How's that look to you? Because I don't see anything that looks even remotely close. This is so frustrating. Is there another charting tool that you guys know? Because this is incredibly annoying. I guess I could just go back here and zoom in. I just wish that I could go to the specific time. Like that would just be nice. I guess we can just do this. This is fine. I'll get over it. I'll be okay. I don't know if I'm going to be okay because I'm kind of salty about this. Because this is the thing, is like, I want the scale to be correct. So we got to get this 21 stuff out of there. There we go. Okay. Here we go. So we need to go to 2020. Here's June. Okay. We'll go off of here. So this is now using 1-week candles, which I don't want. I want daily candles, which then fast forwards me to today because I hate this. Oy vey. 2019, 2020. Okay, gang, we got it. Man, was that painful. We did it, though. We did it. Also, shout out to us. Well, really, you, the apes. There's over 100 of you now. So I think the next magical number we have to hit, maybe you have to call a friend, but is 169, I think is the next one. I think we cracked over 200 once. I think that was last weekend, actually. We'll see if we can get the gang in town. All right, so let's take a look. This is what was going back in June. And what I'm identifying now is actually how he behaved. So I'm going to move this over here so that we can essentially have these side by side. So I can see that he got in at 516. So again, this is all split adjusted. So I don't know how many adjustments happen in this time frame. So I don't know actually like where on the nominal price he would be. I'm just kind of following along with the behavior. So this is from the end of June. We know that he started doing his updates towards the end of the month. And at this point, he had 500 shares that he accumulated again. His basis was 516. So super small stocks position. But then we can see another interesting behavior emerge. This is different. This is completely different than what we saw previously. And it is 100% worth noting is take a look. 2021, 2021, 2021, right? So we still have these base positions that are in 2021, and we can see the value of these positions. The reason why this matters is because he's still playing two things I can clearly identify. He's playing options that are further out in time, and he's still playing options that are out of the money. Very important note that these are out of the money options that he's playing that far out in time. That's a very specific kind of options trade to take, especially in a longer term time frame, which we can talk about that really quick so that you understand why I'm highlighting that to you. So I don't know if on demand lets us go back far enough. Does this let us go back to 20? Let's see. Can we get back to 21? We can. Great. And we can go back to 20. This is perfect. So let's go back to the end of June. And let's take a look at his actual portfolio. Like, don't worry about these weird bars and stuff. It's just because it's on demand being stupid. So just let this load for a second. I'm literally going to recreate his portfolio, like, so that we can see exactly what it looked like, which was one of my goals on the last session, but we just couldn't go back far enough. Again, don't pay attention at all to this candle. It's misleading you. It's just because it's on demand and it's broken data. So just take it for what it's worth. But what we can do is get rid of all of these other positions. This was, I think, an example we were doing at some other point. So we'll just clear out the whole portfolio. And then let's scoop up his exact position. So the first thing we have is 500 shares, 500. And we got those 500. His basis was 516. 516635. Just being super precise. I'm going to get rid of all these other, we've done a million examples. That's why you see all these other simulated trades in here. Okay. So that's his basis here. And we also have a bunch of options trades. So we have, let's go to, we'll do the 21s first. So in 21, he has the 16 April, 12 calls. Super far out of the money, as far as you can go. Super far out of the money. And he has 500 of these. I love the leverage that this dude uses. It's classic. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. He doesn't have 500. He literally has 1,000 of these ones. So he has 1,000 of these at 40 cents. Next option he has is in Jan 15, 21. He has the 20s. What are these? These are like a 6 delta. This is crazy. So he's buying tiny little deltas. This is nuts. This is absolutely like mind-boggling to me. And he got them for 6 cents. Mind-boggling. This, I'm not even going to lie, this reminds me of like amateur options trader movements. And I'm not saying that he is. He obviously isn't. Like, he's probably even more skilled than I am. Not that that's like that high of a threshold to cross. But just these trades are just so counterintuitive for what would generally make sense based on what I've heard from his thesis, which we'll talk a little bit about. So it's 15 Jan. He has another, so he has the 20s, the 15s. Then he goes into 16 October. And he has the 8s, which again, super far out of the money. And he has 500 of those for 6 cents. So he's buying a bunch of super cheap options. Super cheap options. Back here. Then we have, so now we start getting into nearer term stuff because he doesn't have anything in AUG, and he goes to July 17th. Okay, so important note here. Again, for fingerprinting, important note. The last two series, let me grab this. The last 2 series that we're going to pull in here, take a look, 17 July. What do you notice about all of the expiration choices he's selected? What do you pick up? There's one very clear thing I see so far. And again, this is the beginning of the fingerprinting. I don't know what happens next, but this is something that pops into my brain that I think is important to call out here, and then we'll see what it looks like. All monthly expirations, exactly, Mr. Off Putin. So we are not using weeklies. We go right by the weeklies, and we're just using monthlies, which is smart, by the way. That makes sense to me. I totally understand why he would do that. So we have these. Did I already grab these? Yeah, so we're in July now. We need the 12s in July. Again, so far out of the money. So far out of the money. And for these, he grabbed 500. And He got them for 18 cents. And then the last one he has is the 6, which makes way more sense. Still really low delta. He has 300 of these. And he grabbed these for 0.1367. What does that tell me? When I just typed in 1367 for these options, what does that tell me? There's a very specific thing I can understand from that in this instance. Any ideas? It's another important note, again, with respect to fingerprinting. Dan says he's using options to grow his shares. The shares are the asset and the options he trades help grow that. I actually don't agree with you. I really don't agree with you. The reason why I don't agree with you is because he's been trading GameStop for a long time now, and now he's just starting to purchase shares. And the shares are a trivial amount of the portfolio. He grabbed 500 shares at 516. If we go back through this archive of all of his positions, he's trading options. So I actually don't interpret it that way at all. I view it as he's just trading GameStop to the upside. I don't think he's looking at this as I want this asset and I'm going to use these shares to, or use options to get me to the asset. He had the money to buy 500 shares when he first opened his account. It was worth about the same. So I don't actually see that here at all. Okay, so what this tells me, the fact that this is, he bought 300 of these 17 July 20s at 0.1367. What this tells me is he's averaging in. You can't transact at that price. There's no price that can transact at that. The reason why this matters to me is because when I look at his basis, I can see, for example, here, these 15 calls in 15 Jan 21, they're at 18 cents. He got to fill all at once on those. That was 500 of them. These 40s, or I'm sorry, these 12 calls out in 12 April 16, he has 1,000 of those. He got them for 40. He was able to get a fill on all of those at once at one price. These are examples of positions he's averaging into. I would wager more often than not. It's not concrete. Again, to always keep it a buck with you guys, I can't say that with certainty because it could be that as he's getting this one order filled, it's getting pieced up and he's just returned with an average price that's like that. But the reason why I deduce more likely than not that these are averaged into is that if he's able to get fills on bigger positions further out in time, which are less liquid, he's very likely to be able to get full fills on positions near term that are smaller. So I think he's averaging into these. Again, doesn't mean anything outright. It's just another small data point that I can key into when I'm looking at these. Now, the other thing I noticed is I have to update some of these prices because they're wrong. I was using the last updated price. So the 16 April, he got those for 40. That's correct. The next one here is the 15 Jan 21 20s. He got those for 0.0952. And then the 15s he got for 18 cents. That's correct. The 8s he got for 28.80, so 0.2880. Then the 500 of the 12s he got for 18 cents. That's correct. And then this one's correct. Okay. So this is where we sit currently. Let me get rid of that slice for now. And let me catch up on the chat. Vladimir says, Roaring Titty says, wasn't that when he realized it had high short interest? Oh, I think he knew that for a while, temporally speaking. So let me grab the YouTube channel for him. And we'll take a quick little peek-see. Aquí. Let's go to videos. I think it was probably in a live, because funny enough, both he and I really like doing live streams. I think we both like live streams way more than videos, because he has way more live streams than he does videos. 4 years ago. So, okay, so he's already talking about a squeeze here. What's the date on this? I forgot. There's somewhere you hover. There it is. 4 September 2020. So he's talking about a squeeze here on 4 September. So it's about the same time frame. So here's his position as it sits here. So now let's take a look at what his next position looks like. So we can close this one out. That's June. Let's get to July. In the meantime, let's see what some of these look like. I think these are all GIFs. Love that. Absolutely love that. Okay, so now we're into July. And he's now added a much more significant share position. And let's see what's rolled off. I got to slide this a little further out of the way. So here's what's rolled off. 16 April is still there. Jan 15 is still there. Double time, triple time. He's added to it. October is still there. 17 July is gone. And that would have been 8. So he did not. This is another really, really important note, because I know a lot of people all the time speculate, like, did he exercise? Did he exercise? This is another example where I can tell he did not exercise these options. There's a very specific way I can tell he did not exercise any of these options that we see in here from his previous portfolio, because these came due. These 17 Julys, they rolled off. And he ended up buying shares. Roaring Titty says, not enough cash to exercise them. That's a great point, but that is not what tells me definitively. There's another thing that's even more certain than not having enough capital, because it always could be argued he added capital to the account, and we have no way to prove or disprove that, by the way. We really don't. It could or could not have happened. We wouldn't know. Cost average. That's exactly correct. So both Lance and H are spot on. I can look at the change in his cost basis. Here we have 500 shares at 516 and change. Now we have 10,000, way more shares at an average of 411,332. We obviously average down. The lowest basis he had in here was an 8. Oh, let me go back over here. Sorry. The lowest basis he had in here was a 6 and a 12. So the way that this would work is, if he exercised these, he would have taken 500 shares times 100. His basis would be this $12 plus the debit he paid, in this case 18 cents. So it would have been $12.18. Drive his basis up. Same thing even with this 6. This 6, $13.67 would have moved this basis up, not down. Cedric says, so he rolled them. No, he did not roll them. He just took a loss, is what happened. He absolutely grabbed more options across the board, but there's nothing to roll. So if you want to call it a roll, there's nothing necessarily structurally wrong with calling it that. But it's essentially not what happened, though. Those would have came down for a full loss. So he would have lost the investment on both of these. These two are now gone. Right now, in case you guys don't know, I was talking to my mom earlier, and she's just sending me pictures of her spice cabinet, which is hilarious, because I actually didn't ask for these. But I guess I'm glad that she sent them. Now I know what my mom's spice cabinet looks like. If any of you guys need to take a look at a spice cabinet, I have a great example. But no, I don't think he rolled them. I think these just came off for a full loss. He would have lost the investment on them. Maybe he salvaged a little bit of value left. We could figure that out technically, but I don't think it matters much. Cedric says, maybe I don't understand rolling. I thought it was just selling your option, buying next ones. Yeah, that's not completely wrong. That rolling is fake. That's the way to think about it. And the reason why I say it that way is because people grossly misunderstand rolling. So there is a video about rolling options. This is another video about rolling options. And then this is a video about common myths about rolling options. But Cliff Notes version of what a rolled option is, it's literally when we close a position, open a new position, and we mentally tie the accounting between the two. That's it. But it's literally just closing a position, opening a new one. So normally when we're rolling a position, it's like if it's a sold option that's underwater and we're trying to manage it. But yeah, it's just fake. It's essentially closing a position, opening a new one, designed to make you feel better. So anyways, these would have came off. These are gone. Boom, boom, gone. Now we have to size all these up though to represent what he has. So now what he has, I have to slide it over here so I can see. He now has 10,000 shares. And he has 10,000 shares at a basis of 4.11332. And he has 1,000 of the 16. These are the same. These did not change. He bought another 500 of these to bring this up to 1,000 of these 20s. And it brought his basis down. Again, important note. He's averaging down 7, 2, 6. He's averaging down into these as well. He has 1,000 of these 15s. And he got 1,000 of them now for 14. Averaging down, continuing to average down. And then he has 1,000 of these 16 oct 28s. And he averaged down these as well. He has these now for 219. And at this point, just to show you what the stock was trading at, first I need to update the date in this so that it shows you correct. We have to go back to where am I? July of 2020, is that right? July 2020, we're at the end. And then I need to bring this back to July of 2020 as well. Here. And the current spot price was $4 and a penny. So I'll throw that here so that we could see what his P&L, well, we already know what it was, but just so that you could see his full position. So this is what he's holding right now. And that's where GameStop is currently trading. And this is looking at June 30th. Cedric says, do you have a video on CFDs? No, we don't really trade CFDs much here in the States. It's actually really difficult to trade them. And I don't like CFDs at all. I think they're like terrible, terrible products. So I don't trade them much myself. And I wouldn't, I wouldn't like talk about something that I don't have experience in. So that one I wouldn't be able to help, sorry. Zachariah says, no wonder Wall Street Bets was dragging on crazy even for him. Yeah, absolutely insane. Literally absolutely insane. So this is what it looked like for him. We have to go to the end of July, which is when this came through. Right now, the chart is updating. So again, don't pay attention to the latest candle. It's all bullshit. Zachariah says the most hydrated man on YouTube. Yeah, dude, I take drinking fluids very seriously. It's because I sweat like a whore in church. So, and I'm typically physically active. The whole herniated disc sciatica thing is still kind of fucking me up, but not terribly. So yeah, I'm still going to the gym every day. Still got to keep hydrated. So let's see. Kind of just oscillating sideways here. And so this is what his position looks like. 112K. Nothing really jumping out at me yet. Let's see what he's talking about here. I'm curious what the tenor was of the conversation. Accumulating GME2, painfully boring. Market makers have pinned 4 for 5. I don't think this is true, but I know people use this all the time. The only catalyst is whether or not GameStop can transition online, which is really interesting because this is 4 years ago. I think Amazon should buy them, likely considering it. That's funny. They were still doing well in sales. Lance says, got to stay hydrated. Don't want a silver bullet. Yeah, well, and that's kind of the problem, you know, with all those fucking corpsmen out there. They're real excited to try to, you know, take a core temperature, which on the Marine officer side of the house, that is literally like, it's literally not going to happen. I would rather die than go through that, especially if it's in front of like the dudes or something. Like there's no fucking way I would fight the corpsmen. There's literally no way. So yeah, you gotta watch them corpsmen. They're real stoked whenever that process comes up. Freaks. Roaring Titty said, did GameStop just change its logo? Let's see. Doesn't look it. Somebody says that there's something new like 6 months ago, but I don't see it. I don't see a change. Titty says I saw it on Newton's video today. I'll text him. I didn't watch his video today. Let me text him. I'll see what he says. I just asked him. But yeah, this looks the same to me. All right, so that's the end of July. I want to finish going through this post first. So this looks like he's starting to win people over. And you can tell that about 4 years ago, people are starting to come around. Which that's really interesting. So it tells me it took about a year, it seems. Also, there's 151 apes in here, which is sick, but we're very close to 169. So if there is maybe if your grandma is interested in GameStop or something, it'd be a perfect time to invite her in and let her know that she can be part of a childish joke. Okay, this is just a lot of people talking. I was curious. Going to be timely, month end. Let's see what this is. Huge news, going to be month end update on Monday. What's your target? Sitting on 8 calls. No precise target, just up. Okay. GCA says, please don't ever say 69 and grandma in the same sentence again. I'm just saying, GC, I mean, I don't know how old your grandma is, but if she did anything in like the 60s or 70s, she's probably more familiar with that number than you are, I would imagine. So we just got to keep it a buck out here. I wouldn't, don't start dissing grandma. No prestige. Same. Okay, so here we go. Massive, massive, massive change. Massive change. 112, the end of July. 612 in August. So let's see what's changed. Nothing. Nothing's changed. All the positions are the same. He's just held them. And we can see the total gain here. Oh, that's interesting. Value is 112. Value is 112. Value is 612. I think he added money. I think he added money here. I'm grabbing a quick little workbook so that we can look together. So, because here's what I see. I see he had 112, 238, 78. And then I see he moves to 619 or 612, 191, 84. So this is a $449,000, essentially a $500,000 variance, which is not compensated by this total gain. So the other thing I see here is he's aggressively saving, because here his portfolio went up 441, 410, 93. So then the variance that's not captured here, like 58 grand. Interesting. And it looks like he added some options. You guys are showing me the 17s. So now he has Oct. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 2021 expiries. Let's see. Yep. Okay. So he still has the Oct. He still has the Jan 20s and 15s. He added 17s. And he also added 10s. And he still has the 8s. So let's add those. So let's do, we need to go to Jan 21, which again, about still really long expiration. That's where the vast majority of his money is. And he added the 17s and the 10s. So the 17s, super far out of the money. He has 1,000 of those. He likes round numbers. And he likes the positions being about the same. And he got those for 15 cents. And then he also added the 10s closer to the money. Still low delta, 1,000 of those. And you got these for 20 cents. So those got hit at the same price. All right, let's double check. So we have 10,000 at 411. That's good. These Aprils would have come down. So he probably would have taken profit on those. Oh no, damn it. I took the wrong ones down. I'm an idiot. Damn it. I have to add those back. All right, let me finish checking the other ones, then I'll add those back. Stupid. Gotta go this way. So we have the 20s. We have the 17s. Can I reorganize these or no? That would be slick. Apparently not. That would have just been too convenient. So we have the 20s, 17s, 15s, 10s, 8s. Okay, so I just got to add those April ones back real quick. And he hasn't really added more to these Aprils, which I find interesting. And again, these were the 12s. And he has 1,000 of those. And he got into these for 40 cents. So now it was trading for like 668 here. Cool. Yeah, so it looks like he added money to the account. That's one of the things I notice here. Hockey Nut says cash dropped and he added 15 Jan 17 calls. Yeah, so he used cash for sure. But the point I was making before about the likelihood of him adding money is because this doesn't account for the difference between what his account was before and what it is now. So it tells me that something moved around in the account. What exactly? I'm not positive, but something here moved around for sure. Roaring Titty says he was building a long dated gamma ramp. I don't actually think that myself personally. And it's for a bunch of different reasons. But the main thing is like none of these positions are even like remotely close to causing anything like that. Even in a stock that's hard to borrow, these are still really, really small positions. And by going this far out in time, it really will depend on entirely where the stock is around this point. The entire purpose and function, I have a video about gamma. So I have a video here that talks about essentially like what that actually looks like and how that works. And what I notice pretty clearly is when we're talking about a gamma squeeze, there's like very, very specific conditions that lead to it. So one of the things that I would wager is like with these being so far out in time, there's essentially a null factor there. And it'll be so dependent on what the underlying is trading at as we get closer. So I don't even think he was viewing it as some sort of gamma ramp. I think here it's mostly him just playing leveraged, which is again, like as I look across the bulk of his exposure, like that's exactly what I see him continuing to do is gain leverage. Like that's exactly what this is. So that's August. Here's September. 612 to 832. Same size across the board, same options across the board. So he's just holding. He's still just holding. 16 SEP. Same. No change. Didn't add any shares. What I'm trying to identify now is when do these OX roll off? I want to know when he cashes in on those, assuming that he does. But again, here's another prime time example of something that is just fascinating. In my opinion, there's no reason to cash in on these right away. However, if this were my trade, I would have a resting stop loss so that if it does start to dive down, I would still get out and capture most of this profit, or this profit, I should say. So my question then becomes, does he do that? I don't think he does. My guess is if these start trading down, he would just take them to the downside. That's my guess. But let's see. So that takes us to September. He does a bunch of intra-month updates. That's interesting. Let's take a quick look at this because I still think he's adding money, by the way. Let's take a look at these ones. I'm going to move this over. And then let's grab this again. And let's take a look together. So here, let's just do total gain. Just to make this a little easier to compare, not have to rebuild it each time. Total gain, cash, value. You guys already know it's got to be formatted right. So this was, when's this update? One step. Get rid of those. And okay. So GameStop here. Total gain is 652, 610, 93. Cash 83.91, 84. Value 823, 391, 84. Okay. So now let's see what happens. This is 16 SEP. Gain 802. 910. 93. Cash 8538. 0.04. Value 973, 838.04. So now what we can do is just a quick analysis, and we can look at the change. So now we can see a few things. The first thing is the total value of the portfolio moved by 150,000, and the total gain moved by 153,300. So this looks completely fine. Like these line up perfectly, right? So this plus this equals this. So this tells me that no money has moved. So now we continue. Dr. Zayas says he holds the same position until 19 Nov. Yeah, that's cool. What I'm in, Dr. Zayas, well, for everybody, I don't know if you guys know, the whole point of this live stream is to go through this in detail. So I respect that you are providing the read ahead, But what I'm doing is I'm analyzing not just what changes he makes to his position. I'm analyzing what happens to the cash, how he behaves with respect to stuff like that. So that's my objective here. So now, total gain. Can you guys see this Excel sheet, by the way? I can't tell how much is on the screen. I can try to squish it down a bunch. TG is 1111127.33. And then cash, what I'm going to do actually is make this a little more convenient for me. So this is just part of like my general workflow. I try to not have, I don't like skipping cells when filling stuff in because it's annoying. So what I'll do is I'll move like those calculated cells to the end, like over here, something like this. Okay, so cash, see, like this is a giant difference. 250, 016.79. That's a giant change. Value 150111679. So something specific is going on here. So like this. Here, money moved. I can tell you money moved, right? Because again, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the variance in the value of the portfolio. That tells me it's $527,000. I can look at the variance in total gains and then the cash. And then if these don't line up, something moved. So between these two added gives me 549,000, which should account for that total delta. This should be that, but it's not. So in this case, it's very clear that money moved. And again, this is the whole point of going through these. And also the other thing that I just noticed is look at this. See, this is why you have to trust but verify. You got to look at everything because this isn't the same shit, right? October's gone. So he's now down in options position. So very likely this is something that he offloaded. Like he obviously wouldn't have taken it. Well, he could have taken it into expiration, but we're not there at expiration. So this is still 22 September, October. So then in that case, he would have unwound his oct. And then this is another important part of the fingerprinting because today's date in here is 22 September. Was it here in 16 Sep? It was here in 16 Sep. So between 16 Sep and 22 Sep is when he unwound that position. And again, the reason why that matters is because these were expiring on 16 Oct. So he probably took them down right after this, I would imagine, if not right before this, about a month early. Again, that's a massive, massive, massive important piece of data, is because it tells me he didn't hold this all the way into expiration like we've seen in a few others. So this is now gone. Also, Newton just hit me back. Oh, I see what he's talking about. So Newton shot me a text with what he was looking at. Let me see if I can show you. Ow. I gotta... We gotta stand up. So what Newton's talking about is, I don't know if you can see. Let me grab this really fast. He's talking about this. So I don't know what that is, but it is, Cedric says, was a month ago. Okay, got it. So they just changed the color. But what's also interesting, what's also interesting is if you look at the little icon, it's the same red G, red S. So that's interesting. They didn't change the little cookie note thing or whatever the hell, the chip, or I don't know what the fuck it's called, but you know what I'm talking about. Off Putin says, why not track his price paid? Dude, that's a dog. Are you following along with us, homie? That's what all of this is. It's exactly what I'm looking at. Flavicon. Okay, cool. Thank you. That's what it is. So yeah, so the logo now is all black, but the Flavicon is still red and black. No idea if that means anything. Favicon, sorry. Cedric, you got me out here saying Flavicon. I'll say whatever it is because I don't know what it's called. I'll call it the fucking Flava Flav Con, right? So you got me out here looking dumber than I already look. So thanks for that, I suppose. Didn't quite feel like I deserved that kind of treatment, but okay. I thought we might have had an understanding with one another. Also, you already know we got to get the dinner order started tonight. I'm feeling probably Buffalo Wild Wings again. I'm on like a shitty food. Oh, Mexican sounds good though. Shit. All right, there's the question. Is it Mexican or is it Buffalo Wild Wings? Roaring Titty says Flava Flav. Are you even old enough to know who that is? I don't think so. I don't know anything about him. I think he had like the big clocks, right? Was that his thing? Or is that somebody else? Yeah, the big clocks. Hot pie chicken, Mexican. Yeah, boy. Okay. Flavor of love. So it looks like we might have to run a... H says you've been on a Mexican tear lately, bro. Sunday. I know it's been like on fleek. Everybody says I always order barbecue, but I'm gonna text Mel and see what she says. I'm gonna say Mexican or B dubs. We'll see what she comes back with. We will see. Yeah, so anyways, now we know, oh, let's see. Oh, Mel votes B dubs. That actually surprised me a little bit. I might have Mexican fooded her out, to be honest. I don't actually blame her entirely because I've been running Mexican pretty regularly. But she's down for some B dubs. So we'll get that order started. Grab that, grab that. I order the same shit every single time, so it takes me like 2 seconds. Done. And done. Vladimir Off Putin says, I must be blind because your comms don't track his cost basis that I see. Oh, I'm not tracking the cost basis here. The cost basis here doesn't matter at all. So all I'm doing here is I'm looking for changes in cash movement. That's all. That's the entire purpose of this section. So where I'm tracking is cost basis for the trades is in here so that I can track the difference from movements and positions. But the entire point of this up here is literally just seeing when money flows in and flows out. And again, it's clear as day. If these two don't match, this tells me right away that there's a variance of some sort that's driven by cash. Oh, I just got a long text from Newton. Okay. I'm just reading through to make sure I'm not saying anything I shouldn't say. Okay. So Newton says they've rebranded a lot of their in-house hardware accessories from Atrix to this. I actually don't know what Atrix is. What's Atrix? OEM, is that it? What is Atrix? Atrix. I've heard him say that before. I have no clue. He deep in fundamentals. Yeah, I don't know what this means. They've rebranded a lot of their in-house hardware and accessories from Atrix to this. Oh, okay, thank you, Agent Per. You the bomb. So Agent Per says it's just like an accessory brand. Okay, got it. So, and then he says, I think it's okay. I'm not a business person, and I don't know to what extent the SEC and lawsuits impacted GameStop and Ryan Cohen's work. NFT marketplace was failure because of SEC as an example, but I feel like it would have been a no-brainer to rebrand everything in 2021 and use a logo that the community would identify, pump out, higher margin merch. Yeah. Okay, got it. Super helpful for my boy Newton. And let me catch up to you guys. Dayswag says any discrepancies would be RK adding money from external accounts. Yeah, it would be money moving. It would absolutely be money moving in some capacity. So Vladimir Off Putin says, Dayswag, no, he's selling some contracts. No, that doesn't jive, because if he's selling contracts and not reinvesting it, guess where it goes? Right here, amigo. So that's why his cash went up, is because selling contracts, and then he did something with the, like, he didn't do anything with the cash. So when there's a variance, again, that's why I'm tracking this. When there's a variance between the account value after accounting for total gain in cash, Vladimir Off-Button says he buys other contracts, but he didn't, right? Like, I don't know what's going on with you today, Off Putin. Normally you are on Putin, but you are off Putin right now. You're really off Putin. That's why that's literally what we're looking at. There's no variance in any of these. There's no added contracts, no added lots, no new contracts added to this. There's no new shares added to this. No change, price paid. There's no change in any of it. But again, what I can see is that there is a change in value. And again, for off Putin, this is where you're on Putin. Because again, I agree. I think some of this is from the options that he closed out for a profit. But when you close an option out for a profit, it's going to get placed into cash. Look at change in price paid. Sure. So we have price paid down here. So we have 411. We have the 10 calls at 20. We have the 15s at 14. We have the 17s at 15. We have the 16 April 21s at 40. And we have the 15 Jan 21s 20s. These are the same exact things. Nothing changed, man. Again, that's my point, is that this tells me that money moved from the account. So none of these positions changed. From his last update, we had more cash show up from his other options plays that was not rolled into new positions. Nothing changed, but there's a variance in his account value that I can see. So because of that variance, let me make sure. Yeah, so you guys can see that. It's this column here that I'm most concerned about. This column shows me variance. So again, I'm tracking all of those things. That's literally why I'm looking at this. And based on looking at this again, like money moved in this scenario. The value delta of the portfolio here is 527. And what it should have been, considering these two, is 549. So this tells me money came out of the account more likely than not, like 22K moved. Don't know where, don't know why, but it moved. I can see it. So we continue our digging. But before we continue our digging, I got to go grab our little man Thor. So I will be right back. Got to grab the dude. Quick. What? I would say a quick 38-second hiatus. Time starts now. Come on. Well, he's not digging it. Here he is. Come. Oh, wow. Here he is. The boss. Royington says you were so late. I don't feel like I was that late. It felt like I was talking, but he just wasn't showing up. But he's now ready. See, you got to get into he has his tuxedo on. He's very formal. He's known for his formalities. You ready to look at roaring? Are you going to be roaring Thor? Is that going to be your little thing? You could be roaring Thor. Is that fun? I think he's ready. All right, let's get back to it. So now let's take a look at the next. Let's take a look at the next update. Jotato says Thor's thoughts. Why is he always talking to this stupid box? I feel like that's got to be it. Sometimes he gets like really over when I'm talking, because whenever I'm talking, I typically talk kind of loud. I don't know why. It's just like a natural tendency I've built. So sometimes he'll just dip. He'll just be like, yo, I'm getting the hell out of here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000 all the way across the board. No changes at all. Okay. So this will be. When is this? 30 SEP. And now we continue. So TG is 989027.33. Hash, I have to slide this over. I think you guys can still see the full thing. Cash is 250.02235. So he just gained some interest there. Value is 1379.022.35. I messed up. Oh no, I didn't. Yeah, so this lines up perfectly. Let me make this a little easier. Formula. If this, it's not letting me type in my formula. Do I have to type in the, can I do that? It doesn't look like, that's annoying. if this equals this, then we do just do binary. So I'm just making it easier for us to eyeball stuff for when we're looking at it later. So we can clearly identify when there's changes, like here, definitely a change. So in this case, we can see money moved here and money so far hasn't moved otherwise. So now we go on. So now we go to 8 oct. 8 oct. TG 1883927.33. Cash 250. So he's not doing much with this cash. 25423. Value 2274323. So no change. Same positions, same prices. Yep, all good. Vladimir says, remember, he had 2 weeks between YOLO updates posts. We see a snapshot of a particular point in time and not all of his transactions. Yeah, of course. I'm confused, man. Like that's the entire point of looking between these. It's not, while we're doing this, we're not seeing any like complete evidence of every transaction that happened or to you know what extent. But what it does let us see very distinctly is exactly what you just highlighted, which are the changes in between them, and then we can make inferences. Vladimir says, I was addressing a topic from minutes ago. Okay, yeah, because Vladimir Off Putin says 168 to 139 in cost basis on his posted YOLO option updates. You're confusing me. So when you're talking in here, when you say is cost basis, you're talking about price paid. And you're saying that there was moving from 162 to 139, right? That again, that is captured. The reason why the cost basis changed is because a line item trade is now gone, right? So if we have a long call that has a price paid that comes up, expiration, time for him to manage it, whatever it is, that is originally captured here. Then when he chooses to sell the long call, price paid will come down to account for that long call as a line item disappearing. So it's exactly why you see it go from 162 to 139 is because a position went away. As that long call goes away, it moves into cash. So this changing, again, like the price paid here for the analysis that we're doing in this Excel sheet, it literally doesn't matter because it's going to be captured. The way it's going to be captured is because I'm tracking the difference between total gain cash and value. That is all of the possible buckets for the money to be in at a given point in time, unless it is removed from the bucket. So in this case, I can tell you its money was removed from the bucket. And it's because of the variance between these. So it's exactly how I can track between YOLO updates if there's changes to the position or if there's changes to the cash. And again, I have no context as to, for the cash side of things, why what changes, but I can validate if it changes. So again, that's literally the entire point of doing this, is so that we can get a sense of how these things move. So now back at it. Last one we had was 8 oct. Now we have 15. Oops, clicked the wrong thing. My bad. 15 oct. So 1,000. Jan, April. Jan. So no change. Same. No change in any of the bases here. Oops. I want to move this over because we don't need the space. Yeah, so this is fine. Cedric says, so if something changed, we should see it between YOLO updates. 100%. That is exactly why we're looking at this, is because we will see it between the YOLO updates. No matter what happens, whether he adds a position, whether he adjusts a current position, whether he takes cash in or out, I will see it. Because if he sells some of a position, and then let's say for an example, if he sells some of his position, but then buys some more of the same position, I'll still see it. Because the price paid for that individual line item will show a variance. I will be able to detect it. Again, that's why doing this line by line is really informative, because we've already seen a few changes. So now the TG here is 1902.827.33. Then we have cash 250.299.5. So cash decreased slightly. Don't know why, but slightly. 2293.099.5. So cash came down slightly, but the variance lines up. Interesting. So something happened here. I don't know what. I have to earmark this. So my best guess is, again, I don't know why 123.50 moved, but 123.50 moved. Now, even though these line up telling me that there was no change to the position, like we did take something. Because if this 123 moved and it's not reflected in any of these other positions, because again, they would have moved, something happened. Don't know what, but again, something happened. 15 oct, 22 oct. TG, Jesus, 235, 600. Cash is 253.01.60. Value 2636.901.6. And then $10,000. These are all the same. Big change though. Interesting. Oh, because that's why I was wondering. I was like, I couldn't figure out. This was completely wrong. But it was from here. I grabbed the day gain instead of total gain because I'm an idiot. So 2246, 627.33. Aha. Perfect match. We're good. AT says total gain is all wrong in all caps, as well deserved. Spot on. $30 oct. Oh, gotta back up. Okay, so 30 oct. TG, let's get it right this time, is 932.627.31. Hash 250.303.52. That looks like, to me, that just looks like interest. Value is 1322903.52. And I messed something up. What did I mess up? 1322903. Oh, so this is just a rounding. Okay. So when I look at this here, I can see that this should be, 131399810. This is, 131399808. So this literally is just like a small rounding error. I'm not worried about that. That's just missing a decimal. So essentially we need this to be like 90. 190 would be the delta here. So for cash, if I take off like 2 pennies, or I'm sorry, add 2 pennies, it'll line up. I'm not going to do that, but I'm just going to highlight this as a rounding discrepancy. That's all that is. And it's just because we don't see all the digits. So small, tiny, small rounding variance like that is to be expected. 5 nov. No change in position again. So this is also really interesting, like how much he holds these as they oscillate around. 1075527.31. Cash is 250.303.52, exact same. 1465.803.52. Same. So here's one of the interesting things I find. So this position is now up $314,000. Let's keep an eyeball on that really fast. So last price was 340. That's on 5 nov. 251. Like this. That's not normal. That is not normal. The fact that this position was showing over $500,000 gain, and then we don't rest a stop order, is absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. It's incredible, but that's not normal. Because think of it this way. He's holding something here that the gain represents, again, $600,000 gain. $600,000 gain. And he lets it go from $600,000 down to $250, back up to $314. So what this again tells me is that he's not using things like stops. And it seems like what I'm seeing so far is him basing his options exits not based on some sort of profit target for the option, but based on time. That's what it looks like to me. Because if you had some sort of profit target for your option, you would follow the value of the option and capture it when it's at its zenith, because options decay. Vladimir says maybe he likes the stock and doesn't sweat the value. I don't disagree with you, but what I'm identifying here, though, is a methodology for using options. Because the problem with options is that they do decay. Right? So when I look at a 10 call, even though these are slightly in the money, they still will decay. That's the tricky part when you trade options, is it's not just a function of if you like something, it goes up, right? Like that's part of it. But even if you're correct, these will decay, right? So we literally can take a quick look at it together just out of curiosity. That's what we're here for. So let's fast forward time here. And let's go to 5 nov 2020. And at this point, GameStop should have been trading. Yep. So it's showing right about where he saw it. Last price on his was 11.45. This says like 11.38. That's good. So now let's look at this Jan, which is now 70 days out. And then let's take a look at the 10, right? So if you take a look, right now it's $1.38 intrinsic value. And again, quick options 101 to figure out intrinsic value for a call. We just take the last price and the strike price out of it. So in this case, last price is 11.38. You take the 10 strike out. So that gives us $1.38. That tells me my intrinsic value out of this. So the mid price here, we can use whatever he was quoted at. So he was quoted at 340. So we need 340 minus 138. 340 minus 138. And he has 1,000 of these. And then their options. So there's another 100. So right now, in time value, he has $202,000. Even though this stock is doing exactly what he wants, and it's going up, and he's losing, he has the total value at risk for time value is over $200,000. So whether or not we like GameStop to the upside or whatever the case is, that's part of the equation, obviously. But you're still holding a decaying tool. Options decay rather quickly. So even though his are like right at the money, they're actually going to be close to the height of their theta decay curve. So now what I'm very carefully honing in on is when does he start managing these 15 Jan options? Because again, I can tell you based on price movement so far, it's not predicated on a price target. Clearly, he's just trading it to the upside. So then it leads me to believe that he's trading it based on time, which is fascinating. So we did 5 NOV. Let's go to 12 NOV. 12 NOV. Total gain, 957, 827.31. Cash. Willie says degenerate on the surface level, but solid options trader on the inside. I mean, I really don't know. I really don't know if I would say that personally. Like, based on what I'm seeing here, this isn't bad, but it's really not good. So it's hard to say. It's really, really hard to say, because what I can tell you is that his most recent options trades have a very different feel than what I'm seeing here. It's actually remarkable to see the difference, because in this example, if his thesis for whatever reason didn't play out, this is like, again, it's as he says, it's a true YOLO. If his thesis wasn't fortunate enough to play out, which again, part is luck, part of it is absolutely good luck. Now, it's obviously a ton of research and it's doing the homework and it's having good ideas. I'm not discounting his effort, but you still need luck for it to do what you want in your time frame. And the stuff that he's trading absolutely require a massively healthy dose of luck, is what it is. So that gives us to 12 NOV. Let's get to 19 NOV. See no change here. Hey, Mel, while you're here, actually, could you grab me another one of these? Mel was stopping by because I talked too loud. I told you guys that already. I already forgot the date that we're looking at, which is 19 NOV. Damn it. 19 NOV. 19 NOV. Okay, TG is 1184.127.31. Hash 250.579.6. No change. And then we had to get a Mango reload. It's like absolutely critical to the operation. I was drinking the mango orange seltzer water, which is good, but it's not ideal. Okay, value. 1574679.6. No change. We're good. Roaring Titty says he's also doing this because of the buybacks, RC buying in, console, all those things. Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. And again, we can validate the thesis, right? It's actually really, really easy for us to see what his thoughts were. We can straight up take a look at these same timeframes. That's kind of the nice part about being able to line these up. So for the group, is there a specific time frame in here that we're most interested in seeing what his thoughts were at that time? Because if so, we'll just jump into one of those videos really fast, and then we can see what he was thinking. Rhino says he was a financial and economic genius. He knew in his heart of hearts that GME was going to go up a bit. I don't think he saw 480 coming. Yeah, I mean, and again, like, it's really important to always remind ourselves that genius and crazy are essentially the same thing. And what differentiates them is the outcome. Right? Because if for whatever reason, GameStop went down another path, like so many other stocks, and this didn't happen, then it would be a completely different story. We wouldn't be spending any time looking at this because he would have been yet another blown up trader. But what we have to be really, really careful when we evaluate stuff like this is, again, it's survivorship bias. We're seeing somebody that was able to very, very, very effectively apply an incredible skill set. And again, lining up with a healthy dose of good fortune and luck with the performance of things. And it led to, obviously, the outcome that we saw. But it's 100% survivorship bias, because for every one, it's literally like winning the lottery. For every one roaring kitty who happened to identify this stock that he was interested in, do the homework, and then go in and size up massively, like all of those things together lead to an incredible lining up of events. Cedric says, nah, this is not that outlier. If you looked at fair value of the company before and after his options, you would understand the business doubled or so in fair value. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm saying the research is good. Again, I think you guys, at least in this context, I think it's really important to understand the broader effect, right? So for example, GameStop, it could have done what Wells Fargo did. As GameStop was pivoting, as they were growing in value, they could have been involved in some sort of scandal. Easy. They could have Wells Fargo'd it. They could have done an SVB style thing, not manage their risk appropriately. They could have had a terrible investment into a brand new venture that didn't make sense, right? So like, again, the value that he perceived is there and it makes sense, but there is a massive amount of good fortune that goes into something moving along as it happens to move along. And that's just from a very, very specific circumstance, talking about the individual stock. This doesn't talk about our broader economic condition and the fact that we happened to not go into some sort of broad economic recession. There happened not to have been World War III during this that led to the stock market in and of itself collapsing or even imploding. So that happened to not happen when a global pandemic launched and started leading to, essentially countries closing down for prolonged periods of time. All I'm highlighting is that it was excellent research, an excellent thesis. It was traded excellently. Despite all of those pieces of excellence, there is still luck. There will always be luck to a degree. Now, as you increase your skill set, you'll find that fortune seems to smile upon you more frequently, but there still is luck. And it's important to know that there's luck. So yeah, anyways, I think somebody said like a specific time frame. Steven Sealgall, what a great name. Steven Sealgall says October 2020, I think, when Burry sold his position. Yeah, let's go there. 2020 is what, 4 years ago. Here? This is when he entered. Wait, Steven Seagal, do we mean here where he entered for for Cohen? Or, oh no, you said Burry, my bad. Burry. Here? Is this where Burry sold, you guys think? Cedric says, but if you take a trade with 30% chance of hitting or 60% by DD, I don't call it luck. No, it's called expected return. But the problem that you're mistaken, Cedric, with your analysis, which is exactly what Robo is highlighting, is the problem with having a possibility of a 100% loss on a 30-60% thing is still negatively expectant long term. So it still is luck. It's complete luck in that instance. Again, like this is the confusion. When we're trading or investing, we're trying to create a higher probabilistic outcome. But when you tie that with total concentration of entire net worth or at least investable capital, you are one bad hand away from being eviscerated. So again, for the person that's at the poker table, Robo, the equivalent is to get your hand and then go all in when you find a decent hand after seeing your first two cards. So it's just completely different. And that's why, at least me, I take a very probabilistic approach to trading, but it's why I've never seen the returns that he has, is because I think about it in the context of path of returns. So yeah, it's a fascinating scenario, and that's really where the luck in this scenario came in. Because I agree with you, his due diligence was fantastic, and he was very convicted, and I can tell that he absolutely does a ton of homework. It's a great thesis, but it's still just one randomness thing away from happened to have not worked for whatever reason, unfortunately. Thankfully, it didn't happen. But I mean, like if we look at his portfolio, literally all of his money is in this one thing. It's crazy. And it's what makes it so special, in my opinion, is because of this. Okay, so just to double check, is there a specific time frame in here with his movements that we wanted to validate? Because in here, there's been no change, essentially from back here. So then we can continue down this, I think, until we find a change that we want to investigate what his thoughts were about it. Unless, again, if there's one of the things in here that we want to investigate, because that's why I would watch the video or at least comb through it, is to see if there's any inclination or any hint as to, you know, like what his thoughts were. Rhino says he had over 50 stocks in his portfolio until that. It's the Warren Buffett idea, not swinging at bad pitches until the white one presents itself. To Keith, this was the right pitch. Yeah, definitely. You could tell. And it was something that he was purely convicted in. It was a 100% convicted YOLO. It's the only reason why you would concentrate to this degree. So yeah, completely agree there. 19 Nov. All right, 25 Nov. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So this does look like we see change. And it looks like we see change in his options position. Because the variance here now is one of these options is gone. The 17s are gone. So here, this is 25 Nov. Damn it, I keep clicking the wrong thing. That's fascinating. Why the 17s? Why the 17s? We're going to have to figure that out next. Man, this is so... 166604123 hash 510 593 54 total 2301093.54. Okay. So money also moved again. Fascinating. So one of the things that I can see is that he missed an options trade, meaning he moved something. Vladimir says his cost basis dropped about 15K. Yeah, it's because he lost his options play. We can see that clear as day, right? So down here in his last position, he still had 15 Jan 21 17s. He still had those, but he got rid of them. This is 25 Nov. This is fascinating. This is absolutely fascinating because I think we're starting to see how he unwinds his trades, which again, it looks like it's based on time. So exited 15 Jan 21, 17 calls. So now I want to see what he does with the remainder of these. My guess is he's going to start moving them. Now, what I don't understand is why the 17s. Because 10s make sense. They're in the money. 15s make sense. They're at the money. 20s, I don't understand why the 20s or the 17s, like how he picked between those. So let's see. The total gain here was 185, 223. Let's go back. Total gain here, 130. Don't understand that choice. So he exited the 15 Jan, 17 calls, and then I'm going to put he kept the 20s. He kept the 10s, or the 15s, and the 10s. Very, very interesting. No change to shares. Very cool. So cash went up by 260K. I'm assuming that's the proceeds from the 17s. I can't peg what happened. Why the 17s and not the 20s? The cost basis on the 17s was 15 cents. Man, that's really interesting. Okay, so now my guess is that we're going to see more changes. That would be my natural inference. So this is what's the DTE here? 25 Nov to 15 Jan. So let's do 15 Jan, 25, 15 Jan. What year is this? 2020. 15 Jan, 2020 to 25. No, 25 Nov 2020. And this equals this. Oh, because it's not copying the format here. What the hell? Give me these damn dates. 15 Jan 2020, 25 Nov 2020 equals this minus. Oh, I'm an idiot because it's 21. God. 51 days. So this is 51 DTE. Okay. So we can also see that money came out. Because this should have been 741 and it's 726. Rapture says, could it be close? He did. Yeah, that's exactly what he did. So that's why you see the cash delta elevate here. Yep. So here, it's very clear that he took those 17s down. Why he took the 17s down, I really don't know. But we'll get a little more clarity as we go. 30 Nov. Exactly as anticipated. Exactly as anticipated. This makes sense. So the total gain here was 1955657.63. This makes so much sense now, at least in terms of identifying a behavior. 1100611.49. And then the value is 3166211.49. So we had an expansion of 590 in cash. We had an expansion of 865K total in value. What I can see here is he still has the 10s and the 20s. So now I understand what he's doing. He's taking down the options that are closer to the money. So here he took the 15 Jan 21 and he took the 15 calls down. And he kept the 10s, which are in the money, which will move more dollar for dollar. And he kept the 20s, which will compound. And again, the date here, expiration is 15 Jan 21. And then 30 Nov 20 equals this minus this. 46 days. 46 DTE now. 46 DTE. Fascinating. Love this. Okay. Let's Nov. Now we're at Ds. 8 Ds. 8 Ds. 10s, 20s, 12s. No change in anything else. Okay. So he's just holding here. So total gain 1793457.63. Hash 1102838.38. Value 306238.38. Okay. So no change. He still holding Jan 15 Jan 21. He's still holding the 10s, 20s. And this is now 8Ds. 8Ds 20. This is now 38 DTE. So he started exiting his two others at 51 and 46. And then here he's holding the same expiration, 15 Jan 21, 38 DTE. Okay. The 9th, 9Ds. PG is 1039157.63. Hash 1102838.38. Value 2251 938.38. Two five one 938.102. That's no 1039157. All the same options. no change. That's a hold across the board. Same story here. So he's still holding those. Now it's 37 DTE. Same. Roaring Titty says maybe he's paying for additional insurances. His account is over 250K. I doubt he would do that. I mean, most of us that have, I don't do that. And I have definitely quite a bit more than that. Yeah, I don't think he would be doing that either. It's just so inefficient. FDIC is really like disaster protection at the point where if there's like some sort of large bank failure, if you feel the need to do that, what you would do much more efficiently is just split your capital out, move it into multiple banks. But most of us don't try to hedge like as soon as you're over 250, it would be unreasonable. Vladimir says anyone can open a Roth or IRA as long as you have earned income. Well, I'm pretty sure you can still open an IRA account. Yeah, I think Rapture says, I used to work at a bank. You can walk in and open a Roth or traditional. Yeah, I think it's whether or not you can open it is one thing, which again, I'm pretty sure you can. It's what tax advantages are provided to you, right? So you can still open an IRA if you're so inclined, or a Roth IRA, and you can put money into it. But if you don't have earned income, then you won't be able to deduct it, right? It's because you don't have earned income to deduct, but it doesn't mean you can't open it. It's like the same thing with like when you're priced out of a Roth IRA. I've been priced out of a Roth IRA forever now, but you can still contribute to a Roth IRA in a few different ways. One of the ways you could do it is through a backdoor contribution, which is, it sounds real sketchy, but it's not. It's a really well-known pattern. And there's just certain documents you have to file, and forms to file, but it's accepted. It's nothing nefarious. And then the other thing is, like, you can still contribute to a Roth if you're so inclined, but you just don't get any tax benefit from doing so. So once you max it out, you can definitely go beyond the standard max, and you can also add more to it beyond that. You're just not getting any sort of tax benefit at that point. Vladimir says you can't deduct for contributions to a Roth. It's after tax. Yeah, sorry, I was talking about IRAs in general. But yeah, obviously the difference between like a standard or traditional IRA and Roth is the tax treatment. Traditional being you'll be taxed. You'll essentially have your income tax deferred, and then you're taxed on the back end. Roth, it's the inverse. You get taxed up front, and then it's tax deferred on the back end, which is why people get priced out of Roths super fast, which is super, super annoying, because Roth is more appealing to most of us for a lot of different reasons, but they make it really annoying to maintain exposure to them. So yeah, I don't think, going back to the original though, with what we're looking at here, I don't think that he's like paying for insurance or anything on these, or on his portfolio yet. All right, so we're caught up here. Let's go to the next. 17 Ds. The other thing I notice is that you can tell that he likes the attention, and that's not digging at him, but that's why he's posting so frequently. And you can tell that's why he starts to slow down, which is actually really, really fun. I like that he enjoys, you know, like the game he's playing and being part of the community and stuff. He's not shying away from the attention he gets from doing this, which is super cool. 1102.857.63. Hash 1105.069 0.48. Value 2317.869.48. This looks like it matches up. I'm guessing this is a rounding error. Oh, no, it's not. Wait. Why doesn't this match? It looks completely correct. I'm super confused. $65, $931, $10. That's the same. It's literally the exact same. I even added a bunch of decimal points. I have no idea what the difference is between these. These look completely fine. I'm just going to label as a rounding discrepancy. And he's still holding all of his options. And now we are at 14Ds 20, 32 DTE. So the reason why I'm tracking the DTEs now is I want to see when does he choose to start managing this a little bit differently. Also, I need to turn my air back on in my office. It normally turns off at like 7. But since I'm in here with the door closed, it'll be spicy. Okay. So now we have 22 Ds. No change in positions. This is fascinating. So now the main thing I'm curious about is when does he choose? When does he choose to take these positions down? So I don't think he's going to wait till the last second. Cash is 116,796.64. Value is 3405. 396.64. I messed something up. What did I mess up? The cash. I missed a 1. Easy to do. Real easy to do when you're playing with this many numbers. So here, and he's still holding. And now it's 22 Ds. 22 Ds, 20. So it's 24 DTE. This is getting close to when I would expect these to be managed. Now for the 10s, they're going to be so far in the money that he probably doesn't care about the extrinsic value. We can take a look at those. So today is 22 Ds here. And the 10s are going to be so buried that the amount of extrinsic value that's decaying on those will be probably insignificant. But on the 20s, it's going to be actually very significant. So I'm really curious to see what those values are. Okay. So the 10s, yeah, they have like no value left. So let's just call it 19 minus 10 gives us 9. And these are at, call it 892 minus. Yeah, so these essentially are like a 1 delta. Yeah, there's like no time value left in these at all. So that's why he doesn't care about those. But the 20s are all time value. And they're at the peak of their theta decay curve. This is when theta decay is actually really pronounced. So you can see on these 20s, he's losing 5 cents a day. So if you take $5 times his 1,000 contracts that he has, he's literally losing $5,000 a day by holding these. And it's because we are in the most pronounced phase of this. Stories of Opacity says the backwards account dropped another meme. I think it's RK and it's his alt personality account is TFE. That's funny. I've seen a lot of back and forth on that. I don't personally believe that yet, but I would defer to you guys mostly, to be honest. You guys probably would know better than me. Yeah, let's finish through December and then we'll probably take a pause. So this is 25 Ds because I just want to go through some of the recent price action before we wrap up. And I'm actually going to call it here. Let's just call it at 22 Ds. We'll leave it at that. And I'm going to add a note that that's where we left off. I'll do RK grades. We'll keep an eyeball on it because I want to talk about some of the other stuff because there was a few questions that I got that I don't want to not have a chance to get through. And obviously his old trades are going to be there. And all right, so one of the things that we talked about way in the beginning, it was, I think one of the first questions somebody dropped in here was about these 5,000 block that we continue to see in GameStop flowing through the dark pool. So if we go to GME, and if we limit this by 5,000 and we limit this by 5,000, I didn't need the tin foil literally this entire session. That's kind of crazy. I was expecting to get into way more tin foil stuff. Maybe that's what we'll do when we get to the meme thing. Maybe that will be where we need the tin foil for. Because we've honestly, this has all been like standard data analysis, which I love doing, but it's like part of these sessions is supposed to be getting really weird. Okay, so let's take a look. 913. Let's count how many are on this. Rhino says that 5K is most likely institutions and a dark pool to not affect the tape. That's not aka illegal shit. It's not true. So Rhino, I think it's really, really, really important to, again, like understand the way that the markets behave. One, dark pools are not illegal. Two, more importantly, dark pool prints still hit the consolidated tape. They're just delayed, typically by a few seconds. Maybe a few minutes. That's an extreme scenario, typically not the case. Dark pool trades still hit the consolidated tape. They still hit volume that goes through the day. They still hit stock price that goes through the day. The things that do not hit the consolidated tape impacting volume, stock price are internalized orders. For an internalized order, you won't see them. So those are the kinds of orders that we will not see in impact because we have no idea. Cedric says even RK can use the dark pool. Absolutely. We can all access the dark pool. The other thing is it's up to the broker on the way that they choose to route your order or the market maker. So if I'm buying shares of GameStop and it happens to go through a market maker who happens to decide to route my personal order through the dark pool, that's where it'll go. So dark pools are accessible. So anyways, one of the questions that we had is like, let's go back into May, kind of like this pre-squeeze time frame. And see what kind of 5,000 blocks we saw, if we saw 5,000 blocks. I haven't done this yet, so I have no idea what this is going to show us. C. Gillian says, do you think it's been DFV buying the 5,000 blocks in the dark pool this week? There are over 100. There's a lot of them, actually. I covered a couple of them actually in the last few like daily video updates that I did. But the fact of the matter is I don't know. Yeah. I think man, so this is like just not loading. Maybe I'll try like a smaller time frame. Maybe we'll just do like May, like a week or two. And let's get rid of these because it looks like there's none. Yeah, okay. So there's none. When did the squeeze start in May? Dr. Zay says, does anyone remember the origin of how 5,000 blocks? It's just from when he was buying options, which is that's another funny thing that I see is that people assimilate like 5,000 block shares, but he was buying 5,000 blocks of options, which is completely different. And the reason why options matter is because 5,000 lots in the options world is a big trade. In the share world, it's small, it's insignificant. But in the options world, those kinds of positions are larger. So the reason why he was using, and it wasn't just 5,000 blocks that he was using, by the way, it's definitely more than that. He just happened to settle on that number to start scaling into his position for a few of them, but he had other sizes too. So anyways, as we go through here, let's do cap it at 5,000. So there's no, well, that doesn't make sense. Because I saw, yeah, I saw like a 50. Okay, so maybe we'll cap it at like 5,500. Okay. So we can see that there's a handful here. So let's do the rest of May like this. And then let's limit this by 5,000 now and see if we can, there we go. And then let's change this to 5,000. There we go. So on the 31st of May, there is a bunch of these blocks. Rhino says 512 is when he came back. Cool. So then we'll just do, we'll do like here to here. 17th. I'm going to zoom this in then because it's going to be too much, I think. 0. So leading into his return from all of May, there was nothing at 5,000 blocks. So then let's go back and look at April really quick. Nothing at 5,000. So yeah, doesn't look like there's anything tying that, which is also really, really interesting actually, because here's the other thing that I find very curious. And again, maybe we can get the tinfoil hacks. It's probably coming up on time. The Roaring Kitty. So if we take a look at this, an updated 13G, if he got out of Chewy at, well, let's just call it 6 SEP because he's running out of time. If he got out of Chewy at or before this date, he owes an updated 13G within 10 days for the whatever point in time that he drops below 5% ownership. So here's the other problem with this is when we look at this, we could say he is doing this preemptively and to indicate that he might be putting down Chewy or not. We don't know. But it's the point where his ownership drops below 5%. So he could have opted to start unwinding his position earlier. And then he could have, you know, eventually crossed that threshold or not crossed that threshold. So Hockey Nut says, is it 10 days or 10 trading days? That's a great clarifying question. Let's double check. For amended 13G SEC filings, is it calendar or trading days? Calendar days. Interesting. So this says for amended 13G SEC filings, the deadlines are based on calendar days. An amended 13G must be filed within 45 calendar days at the end of the calendar year if there is changes in the information previously reported. If the amendment reflects a change in ownership exceeding 10% or more, it must be filed within 10 calendar days after the end of the month in which the change occurred. Very interesting. So this looks like there's a fucking giant window here. 45 calendar days after the end of the calendar year. So this means essentially he has until the end of 2024 and then 45 calendar days into 2025 to file the amended 13G. That's what that means. And then I'm going to go to the SEC and check it directly there. Actually, I'm going to ask ChatGPT for a source so that we can look at it for ourselves. Because I've learned not to trust ChatGPT much at all. I want to see the site. Yeah, so beneficial ownership exceeding 10% filings must be made within 5 business days. So this is different than what it says up above. This is the problem with ChatGPT. I need to go to SEC 13G filing rules. We just need to go straight to the source. We'll grab this one because they'll probably make it easier to read. And then we'll probably look at this one, which is going to be terrible to read, but it will be fine. Those are literally two different. I want to like ChatGPT so much, but I just don't trust it. I guess the other thing what is this? The shareholder owns over 5%. Corporations form 10, registering, 12-month period from the acquisition of the time when it's privately held. Shareholder acquired access of 10% of a class of equity securities prior to the registration. Any shareholders so exempt from filing 13D, 13G within 45 days after the end of the calendar year, which an Exchange Act registration. So I got to double check. Is Keith Gill 13? Was it a 13G? Because I'm pretty sure it's a 13G. It is a 13G. So we can see 13G. We can also confirm that he's not a cat. And it's based on Rule 13D1C. So I'm actually going to... Let me see. This is Rule 13D1C. 13D. 13D1A. 13D1C. A bank converted to a holding company structure, a 5% shareholder who had been filing the equivalent of a Schedule 13G with the comptroller, currency received 5% of the holding company's stock in a 1-for-1 exchange, but after the stock had been registered, what the fuck? This doesn't feel like the right thing. This doesn't feel like the right call. So let's see. What is SEC Rule 13D-1C for a Schedule 13G filing? Let's see what this says. Okay. So 13D1C governs Section 13 filings for passive investors, which that's the differentiation. Passive investor is an entity or individual that owns more than 5% of a company's stock, but does not seek to influence or control the company. I think we knew that. These investors typically hold securities for investment purposes only. I think we know that. So initial filing. A passive investor must file Schedule 13G within 10 calendar days after acquiring more than 5% of the company's stock. I think we know that. If the investor's ownership exceeds 10% or there is a material change, ownership increasing or decreasing by more than 5%, that's an important note. The investor must file an amended 13G within 2 business days. That's interesting. Let's do the required only for these. And let's get rid of this one, which looks like what I don't want to look at. So this is really interesting because one of the things I'm highlighting from here is ownership increasing or decreasing by more than 5%. So if that is the case, if he has a 6% stake, he can sell 4% and owe nothing. So knowing him, at least as loosely as I do, it would not surprise me in the least if he posted this with everybody thinking that he's going to drop Chewy entirely, and there might be nothing about it because he might not move by 5%. He doesn't have to. He can unlock the majority of his capital by unwinding 4.5% potentially, if he does any, which is kind of funny. Interesting. Okay. Required investor, an investor with control intent files Schedule 13D, 13G for passive. When is this from? This doesn't tell me. Let's see. So this says 13G, the amendments shorten the initial filing deadline from 45 after the, so that's why we're seeing that. 45 after the calendar year. So that's just old information. This is why I like GameStop so much, is because I'm learning random filing regulations that I otherwise would never be aware of. I would never have a reason to look at this shit. So this is hilarious. Okay. So it says it shortened the initial filing 10 to 5. And this one says it shortens from 45 days after the end of the calendar year to 45 days at the end of the calendar quarter. For other Schedule 13G filers, passive investors, the amendments shorten the initial filing deadline from 10 days to 5 business days. In addition, for all Schedule 13G filers, the amendments generally require that an amendment to be filed 45 days after the calendar quarter in which a material change occurred rather than 45 days of the calendar year. Interesting. Amendments accelerate 13G. Okay. Interesting. So then their election matters. So if they're a G, that's 13D1C. all 13 Gs be amended within 45 days after the end of the calendar quarter in which any material change occurred. Under the current rules, except certain situations, they have 45 days at the calendar year. So this, when is this from? 9 Sep 24. So this seems like really, really, yeah, this is about as recent as it gets. And this looks like, oh, wow. So this is actually going to start soon. 30 Sep 24. So there's even a bigger change here. Really, really interesting. So that's going to accelerate it even more. So we can see what it's going from and to. So yeah, this will catch him then if there's a change. Fascinating. Pam says, I don't think RK likes RC so much. Oh, interesting. I wonder why. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really spent a whole lot of time thinking about like the perception of that relationship and stuff. But I don't see why, especially like if he stays associated with GameStop. If you think about it, like GameStop right now is essentially Cohen, right? That's where all the value is coming from. And it looks like based on his previous work, it seems like he really liked Cohen, right? Like he talks about him actually quite a lot. So I don't see him not liking Cohen. I think one of the problems is, at least what I can tell from the ape community, is it seems like the apes believe that Cohen should prioritize a squeeze. And I don't think that that's what Cohen is or should prioritize. I know that that might upset some of the apes, but that is what it is. A squeeze does not benefit the company to a significant degree. Now, it can help. I'm not saying it's detrimental, but what I'm saying is the focus for a company and the CEO of a company should be literally, hold on, I'm getting hit up. They're confused. It should be the operation of the company. So yeah, I think for what I can tell from the apes is that the apes seem to be obviously like laser focused on this giant squeeze, which I understand. But from a CEO perspective, a squeeze is not like it. A squeeze is short lived, right? Like that's only a thing that happens and then will go away shortly thereafter. So then it's a function of how do I operate a company profitably and grow it? So I think from Cohen's perspective, that is and should be his focus, is growing the company. C. Gillian says, do you think RC and or DFV are involved in the BBY GME merger or acquisition? I don't know shit about that. I haven't seen anything concrete about a BBBY/GME merger or acquisition. And I have absolutely no clue. I have absolutely no clue why RC or DFV would be involved. Yeah, I don't follow that. I mean, if there's information about it, I would be happy to look at it. I think one of the things that I'm noticing is from a lot of people, they're looking at like GameStop and they're starting to look at like all these acquisitions with other meme stocks. And like, it doesn't really line up that well. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but I think like the process for what they choose to get into would be a little more calculated than that is all. C. Gillian says you should look into it. Your mind will be blown. Maybe. Yeah, maybe it will be. But Willie says, but the initial thesis has always been on a squeezable event. Well, that's for, I think for GameStop, the initial thesis has always been value, right? Like even before any of these things about a squeeze came out, he's talking about the value of the stock. So I think that was his original thesis. But yeah, the BBBY stuff, I don't actually fully understand the allure to it, to be honest. Because I know it has an interesting story. I guess maybe because it's like super, super cheap. Is that why? What's it trading at now? BBBY. Or what is this? Here we go. So this went away in May of 23 at 7 cents. So yeah, I mean, this hasn't been around for a hot minute. Roaring Titty says RC bought up 10%, retail stalker followed him, then RC dumped. I actually don't think that that's what happened with Cohen on BBBY, at least based on what I understand on his involvement with it. It looks like he had other ideas in mind, but then there were some other things that popped up that essentially derailed the plan. But I don't think that he actually went to like dump on retail. I think that's essentially how the timing went through. Blonde Swayze says, why did GME wait with their first at the market for 5 months, hitting in really high, and did not cash in before? I think it's really specific. I think that from what I've seen so far with GameStop, with their at the markets, they have very, very, very specific timing that they leverage. And I know that they got approval for a massive offering. So there's still tons and tons left to go if they are so inclined with the existing offering. So yeah, I think when I look at their approach so far, it seems like it's really focused on trying to, I can't see, I know there's something, but I can't see like what their end vision is in mind. And the reason for that is because it seems like, at least to me, it seems like at this point, we would have some sort of clue as to what the overall idea is here, but I don't really feel like we do. Roaring Titty says he dumped. I'm not saying he did to profit off of retail, but he dumped. I'm saying retail stocked his investment, jumped in. Oh yeah, sure. I think that would be totally fine. Because yeah, you're absolutely correct. Like he exited the position. It's just the connotation, right? Like when somebody says something like the term dump, there's a very specific connotation as compared to, you know, like exit, leave. But yeah, if it's just saying that he left the position, then yeah, for sure. Completely agree. But Roaring Titty says, but retail is mad at him for that. Well, retail, and what I find in general is like humans are just going to be angry at somebody for something. It's just how they are, man. Like people get pissed at me. I get hate mail from the way that I talk about GameStop. I get hate mail for literally everything. So it's like, yeah, people are just fucking silly and like to be angry about stuff. And they look for scapegoats because most people struggle to look at themselves and identify their part of something or their reaction to something. And they look for something to blame. So yeah, the fact that retail traders are upset at him, literally not even a remote surprise to me. That sounds completely par for the course because, well, people are people. GCA says, I'm angry and offended by that. Perfect. That's what we go for here. All right, gang. that wraps me up. It's time to go grab some dinner. Absolute blast hanging out though. Let me know what we should look at in the next session. You can throw them in the comments. You can hit me up on the Discord, or when I make the post, you can always drop anything that we want to look at there. But I want to go through part 3 of his trades and finish going through those. I'm learning a ton. The thing I want to know the most right now is, when does he manage those 17 Jan 21s? Because he's coming in, I think he's already within 30 DTE. So I want to know when that goes down. But that's the top of mind for me. Obviously, I'll keep an eyeball on stuff like what GME does, but it's been very, very quiet in here. So when we're doing stuff, again, like when I'm doing my daily market update videos, I still glance at GameStop, and if there's something at least somewhat notable, I'll obviously always bring it to your attention, at least, you know, what I see. But so far, pretty quiet. So as always, blast hanging out. Enjoy the rest of your weekends. For the Outlier Pro members, I'll see you on the Market Prep live stream tomorrow. Everybody else, I'll see you in the Discord on the next YouTube live stream. Be an outlier. I'll see you guys later.